ago that some were focused on climate change. My question is to you, Mr. Barr. I realize you didn't come into your role until July 2022, but isn't it correct that when you did, you quickly announced your holistic view of Fed regulations and your own Fed special scenario analysis for weather and climate risks?
Those are a few different items. I announced that I was doing a holistic capital review, which was looking at capital in the system, whether it was at appropriate levels. We've been conducting that really since July. There's a separate thing, which is that in the beginning of this year, we piloted for the globally systemically important banks, GSIBs, a pilot of climate scenario analysis to evaluate how they were addressing climate risk in the system. That's separate from basically what most supervisors are doing most of the time, which is highlighted in our November 2022 Supervision report, which is looking at interest rate risk, credit risk, liquidity risk in the system.
Which we could both agree that interest rate risk, liquidity risk are within your job scope, but is climate risk really something that you should be focused on when we saw all of the red flags on this bank? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the role of the vice chair for supervision to focus on bank supervision and regulation? Yes or no?
Yes, that is in fact what I am focused on.
So if that's the case, then were you distracted from the mission of your role, which again is supervision and regulation, and instead focused on climate?
No, I would disagree respectfully with that. The way that we're looking at climate risk is about the risk that climate change might pose to the financial system and to individual banks. It's a very narrow role focused on financial risk, not climate policy more generally. And I think, as I was saying before, we need to be humble about regulators' ability or banks' ability to understand all the risks in front of us. It's prudent to look at long-term risks as well as really obvious and central risks right in front of us, like interest rate risk and liquidity risk.
Well, I would say that what we saw with Silicon Valley was obvious risk. It looks like the mismanagement, it was flagged. There were fair warning signs. And while I appreciate that you were able to focus some attention on the actual supervision part of the bank regulation, we see a gap here. And I think that we would like you to focus on your job as the vice chair of supervision in the wake of SVB's collapse. And I feel like this was a little too late when you all finally stepped in to look at it. So thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.